Hi, I'm Nathan Shively-Sanders, and this is part 4 of the Definitely Typed Omnibus. This one's going to get a bit complicated. It's how to fix definitely typed test failures. Uh, and like I said, it's going to be mostly the interest of two TypeScript team members that have definitely typed rotation weeks. So what are definitely typed tests? That's where we compile and lint all of definitely typed on the last 18 months of TypeScript, plus TypeScript next. Plus, you can run it on your own TypeScript PR. If you're a team member, you can say at TypeScript bot run DT. And that's sort of for 3 versions. Version 2 here is to make sure that TypeScript at next doesn't break anything on DT, or more specifically, your PR doesn't break anything on DT. It's also to make sure that external dependencies still work. As definitely type has become less central, there are lots of packages on DT that depend on major packages that have switched already to TypeScript. And so if those packages break something on DT, it's an indication that maybe those external dependencies are broken in some way. The third reason is less important than it used to be, I hope. Internal dependence sometimes break as well. In other words, packages on DT break when something that they depend on changes, and CI doesn't, for some reason, run those packages, or somebody ignores CI and just merges anyway. That's a lot less common than it used to be, just because packages have explicit dependencies, and so it's much easier for the CI dependency manager thing to figure out which packages to run, because it just uses a PNPM. Oh, I just said this. The problem with figuring out which of those 3 causes are the actual cause of failure is that they all more or less have the same symptoms. You'll see expect type fails, and it says expected T but got U for some types T and U. Or you'll see a compiled error that package dependency, whatever package it is missing types. Or you'll see a compile error on some TypeScript version. It's usually TypeScript at next, because at least right now we run TypeScript at next first and then older versions later. And a variation on that is if there is a TS expect error and the new version of TypeScript no longer has an error there, you'll get a compile error saying, hey, I expected an error here, and it's still a compile error, but it's an error saying that there is no error. So how do we turn those symptoms back into one of these 3 causes: external dependencies, TypeScript changes, and possibly internal breaks? So here's a screen of text for somebody who finds these slides later. I'm actually going to do kind of a demo set of slides instead. So how to triage failures. Start with the error messages. So you'll see something like this in the output from the job that runs overnight. And it'll say an error in Ramda. Here's the file, there's the line, and we expected an unknown but got number. So the first step is to say, let's open up this file and see if we can repro it locally. So I've got a screenshot from an editor, and it's actually running TypeScript 5.3, not 5.4, which at the time that I recorded this example was 5.4 was next, 5.3 I think was in beta or RC or something like that. It was about to be released. And so the first thing to check is, did I reproduce the error? So the error is that we expected the type to be unknown, but we got number. In fact, we can see expect type unknown in line 18. You see that X is actually number. Notice that I had to add const X equals to make the error type easier to see. If you just mouse over r.path, you get this big long signature with a bunch of overloads, and then right at the end is the return type, and I think it was actually cut off on the tooltip. So the first step is to notice which version of TypeScript you're running in your editor. If you're running anything except the very latest build, and you manage to repro the error, then congratulations, it's not TypeScript, because TypeScript at latest, like here, TypeScript at 5.4 fails, and if your editor is running 5.3 or whatever, if it fails there as well, then you've eliminated recent TypeScript changes as a possibility. So the next most likely thing is an external dependent or internal dependent. These are explicit now, so if you just look at package.json, you'll be able to see them. In this case, we're looking at Ramda, and Ramda's package.json has one dependency, types Ramda, and then it has that self dependency and dev dependency. So you really only have one to worry about. So it looks like it depends on types Ramda at 29.5, and it's at least 29.5, but when it was created, whoever did this was looking at 29.5. So let's go to npm. Look up types Ramda on npm, and in fact, 13 hours ago, 29.6 was published. So when you see something like that, then it becomes very likely that an external dependency is the cause. Let's confirm it though. So how you do that is you go into the definitely typed repo, cd typed Ramda, and then you do pnpm install types-ramda at 29.5 with no hat. And so you get exactly 29.5. Then you go back to your editor again, and you should see this say unknown now. So we've confirmed it was not a TypeScript change, and it was in fact an external change between 29.5 and 29.6. So what to do now? So there's a couple of things you can do. If the change in the package is wrong, the external package is wrong, you can try to fix that package, or prod the owners to fix the package, or you can fix the code on DT that fails. So I have three possibilities here. Like, definitely you should file a bug if they have a bug tracker, but really some projects don't have bug trackers or don't have active bug trackers, and in that case you try to contact the owners any way you can. I've had to do this once or twice for like abandoned Google packages that were technically open source but weren't owned by anybody, and the people in Google nobody was tasked with making sure new versions got published. So it was a mess, but it took a couple years and they finally managed to publish it. If you can, send a PR to the external project. If the problem is simple, then you can just fix it for them and send a PR, and hopefully it will be good enough to just take and ship the fix. However, if the external project is right, and in this case, the Ramda example, the external package was right, you have a few options. You can fix the package on DT. So in the Ramda case, the fix is the test assertion, right? The test assertion says that you're supposed to get unknown, but now you're getting number. So you just change the test assertion to say, yeah, you're actually supposed to get number, which, sounds like a better type than unknown in general. But in this case, the reason I know that was the correct fix is that the actual type owners came in and did the fix before I got there. They fixed the problem in a couple hours, which is great. If you don't have that advantage, one thing you should probably do is pin the old version of the dependency, say, okay, the dependency is now exactly 29.5, not at least 29.5, and then ping the type owners and say, hey, this is broken on the new version. What do we need to do to make sure that we update? You can also ignore the error. That's kind of only really appropriate, say, if some deprecated thing was being tested on DT and now it finally got removed. That's actually more of a fix, isn't it? Or if you removed tests of a deprecated thing in your dependencies. I don't know if I'd recommend ignoring the error on DT. If you do, you just stick an any in there and then ping the type owners and hope that they can sort it out later. I have done this when I was in a hurry, but I wouldn't recommend it. Oh, one more thing. Actually, if there's an external project and the fix is going to take a long time, then in order to make our tests stay green in the meantime, there's a text file that you should add the package name to. It's in Microsoft / definitely typed tools, and that's the URL right there. That makes it so that when the package finally does get fixed, it'll start failing our tests until we take it off the failure list. But they'll stay green in the meantime. Okay, so here's I want to talk about updates. Should you update the package? In other words, if the external package dependency now says that it's number, should you switch to number and update your dependency or not? So let's look at sort of a real setup here. If you've got a real package that depends on some types, like in our example, these are the Lambda types, chances are extremely, extremely good that they're also going to have Lambda in there. And that's just because you don't have the types for something usually unless you're actually also using the package itself. And those both have versions, and they presumably both depend on some external package that is the reason that you found out about the break in the first place. So say you have this working setup, you've got T depending on E at 15.1 and that's using the values of 15.1. Then you have at type/T also depending on 15.1 using the types from 15.1. Now say you've got 15.2 coming out and it breaks types in some way. So now you see an error on definitely typed. 15.2 breaks at type/T at 2. You can update at type/T at 2 to match the types of 15.2. But it might not be the right fix. Specifically, if you don't want to get your at types ahead of your original package. If T at 2 is already updated to 15.2, that's fine. Then at type/T should also be on 15.2. Just have to update your types and start using 15.2. But sometimes at types packages will be perfectly up to date to T, and T will basically be a dead project, even though its dependencies are updating. And if it's stuck on 15.1, you shouldn't update at type/T to depend on 15.2, because when you actually have an entire project, that means that my project will install T at types/T and suddenly have 2 versions of E in their tree. Might be okay if you end up only using E for types, but it might not be okay because you might end up with T using the wrong version of E or vice versa. In that case, if you should basically the rule of thumb is you shouldn't update your types package to be newer than your original package. Just in that case, just pin it to whatever working version of E used to work, and then ping the owners and say, hey, can you please watch this for when the original package updates, and update it at that time. Okay, so that's external failures. Internal failures, like I said, are less common, but a good sort of the safest thing to do is to revert the PR that caused the break and ping the authors saying, hey, CI didn't test XYZ packages. Here they are. Go look at X and see. Probably you're going to have to do the same thing you had to do to fix any other packages that depended on your change. And CI just missed them. You could also fix the dependence for them if the fix is simple. If you can look at the original PR that caused the break and see, oh, they just had to like import some different name and they changed the name in a very simple way, you can just go fix it. I don't think I'd recommend ignoring the problem. That's not really a good solution in this case, or many cases actually. Either way, after you're done, file a bug on Microsoft/definitely typed tools to complain about the fact that CI didn't test all dependents. It is possible that CI did test everything, but somebody inside Microsoft ignored the results and merged anyway. In that case, complain to me, and I'll figure out what happened and revert as needed. To fix TypeScript at next breaks, you need to decide if TypeScript improved or got worse. Either way, you're going to file a bug. But if TypeScript improved, if you see that the break on definitely typed is a good break, then the bug needs to say, hey, you need to go fix definitely typed so that this package will continue to work when we do eventually ship, TypeScript 5.4 or whatever new version of that TypeScript there is. If TypeScript got worse, then you need to file a bug that says, hey, you broke this package on definitely typed. It looks like it's incorrect now. Please figure out what went wrong and fix it. Do try to be helpful. Talk to the original author of the TypeScript PR and ask them, hey, can I help update DT if it needs to be updated, or can I help provide a minimal repro? It's really nice if you can show up with like 10 lines repro instead of a whole definitely typed package. in the case that you know that TypeScript has a bogus error now. One thing worth pointing out is that even if you have a good error, if you have 1,000 good errors on definitely typed, that's an indication there's probably going to be thousands and thousands of errors in real world code out there across the internet. And that might be too much of a good thing. Too many good breaks are pretty much equivalent to a bad break. So just have that discussion with the author of the PR. One trick to finding what the problematic PR, is to just look at the last days worth of commits or so. So if the overnight tests are clean and then the next day they're broken, well, it had to be something from that day. And usually there aren't that many commits. So here, like, there were 4 commits, but obviously this one's not a problem. Autocomplete is rarely a problem. Like, it's not ever going to touch definitely typed stuff. So it's really only 2 things. You have to check out, like, this one, and this one to find out where the error was introduced, and git bisect is too much overhead for that. You can just check it out directly and reload your editor. All right, so that's how to find definitely typed test failure causes, how to triage the whole thing. Thanks for listening.